Welcome to today's edition of the Statler Financial Radio Show. Your financial security is our business. Have a question for the team? Call today, 863-877-1188. That's 863-877-1188.
Welcome to the Statler Financial Radio Show. I'm your host, Stephanie Griffin. If you're retiring in the next 5 years, or if you're retired less than 5 years ago, so glad you tuned in to the show today. Whether you know it or not, you're in the middle of what some say is one of the most economically dangerous 10-year period. This is where the decisions you make can impact your retirement for the rest of your life. So today, Philip Statler is with us from Statler Financial Services. He is here to help us find out ways to find our way out of this dangerous place. Before we dive in, though, now is a perfect time to call Statler Financial for a complimentary retirement stress test. This valuable service is going to help you uncover which decisions matter most right now and show you how to reduce unnecessary risk to your retirement. Appointments are limited, so definitely don't hesitate. Give Philip a call, 863-877-1188. You could schedule your complimentary visit with Philip. And that number again is 863-877-1188. Hi, Philip. How are you?
Hey, I'm doing well, Steph. Good to be here with you. It is summer's getting closer and excited what the rest of this year holds.
Oh, I can't wait. I cannot wait. I love this time of year anyway. So let's get into our show, Philip. Why is this specific 10-year window one of the most dangerous times for our money?
Well, so here's the deal. You know, you've worked hard, you've saved, and usually at this point in retirement or pre-retirement, you know, your assets are at their absolute peak. You know, you've maxed out your 401ks, you've done a good job, we've got savings. So what that means is that any drop, any percentage drop in the market could be financially devastating. And then the other thing is that you no longer have time to let the market naturally recover before you need that cash in. As a matter of fact, I've gone back and looked, and if you go back to the last, what I call the last two majors, bear markets, and some people will stick another one in there, but to me, the last two major bear markets were 2000 and 2008. And if you go back and look at those, now 2000, there's some caveats, right? 2000, as long as you had a well-rounded portfolio, you weren't invested heavily in the dot-com stocks, because if you were in the dot-com stocks, well, there was no recovery, right? So, but if you had a well-rounded portfolio, it typically took 4 to 6 years just to get back to where you were. And we found the same thing happened in 2008. It took somewhere around 4 to 6% if you held on and just worked through that process and you didn't liquidate. Now, if you liquidated at the bottom, you didn't come back. There was no recovery. And so that's why it's so important that we make sure that 10-year period is just so foundational when it comes to creating your future income. A crash could be devastating for that.
Right.
And so then the other thing is you have to actively, and this, I got to tell you, Steph, I think this is probably one of the hardest things for people to wrap their head around, right? You have to actively shift your mindset.
Yes.
From aggressive growth to more of a protectionist.
Right.
You know, some people would say, well, absolute protection. Well, I don't know. You still need some risk in your portfolio. But you have to be switching mindsets from aggressive growth to more of a protection mindset. And that is hard for guys, especially that have been managing their own money or had it in a 401k and mutual funds. It's just difficult to do.
So from what you were just telling us, it sounds a lot like sequence of returns risk. Can you kind of give us a reminder what that is and how it works?
Absolutely. So sequence of return risk is the risk that when you need your money, when you need to turn on income, that the market is going down. We don't know what the returns are going to be year over year. And that's the risk, right? If the market's going up, hey, that's not a risk. I say I'm getting rewarded. The risk is I need money out now and the market's down 25%. That's not good. And what that does is it exasperates those losses because now you're having to sell down at the bottom, maybe not the bottom, but on the way to the bottom. And so you're not going to be able to recover from what you take out. And so that's called a sequence of return risk. It can be very, very dangerous. And that's why we look and say you need to do the first allocation, the first diversification you need to make is between risk and safety
Right. So,
heading into retirement. So go ahead.
no, I'm so sorry. So, a lot of people rely on their standard 401k or basic target fund to help keep them safe during this period. Why could that approach or that set it and forget it approach potentially be a recipe for disaster?
Well, one thing that we learned back in 2008 about the target date funds is, and I don't know, historically we haven't seen any differences yet, but that they did not do what they were supposed to do. In other words, if I was 5 years out from retirement, and today is what 2026, so if I'm looking at a 2030 fund, right, a 2030 fund that's 4 years away, then you would expect that fund to be relatively conservative. And what we saw was that that did not happen in '08. Those funds took a bigger hit than people anticipated. Those generic funds also don't take into account your personal timeline. Like I said, they're every 5 or 10 year segments. They don't look at, hey, I'm going to retire in 2028. Well, there's not a 2028 fund. There's a 2025 fund, there's a 2030 fund. Um, so it doesn't really, ascertain the true risk of the tolerance that you may have there. They can also be exposed to a lot of volatility far longer than actually should be done as far as a safe allocation. And if you have a massive correction, it could really and shatter those. And we saw that happen in 2008.
Right.
Folks, listen, the clock's really ticking. If you're within that 5 years of retiring, or you're retired within the last 5 years, your wealth has likely never been more vulnerable. If you've saved at least $500,000 or more, give us a call at 863-877-1188. That's 863-877-1188. That's right. Call right now for your free retirement stress test. We'll show you exactly how a market downturn could impact your specific savings and help make a plan that you can work towards that will give you more confidence in your retirement. Don't let a single bad year in the market destroy a lifetime of hard work.
We are talking with Philip Statler of Statler Financial Services in Sebring. I know one common risk in this window is the decision of when to claim Social Security. What challenges do you see there, Philip?
Well, Stephanie, there can be a real challenge. And I've talked to several people lately about how do we look at that and whether when do we claim it, how we decide when to claim it. A lot of people try to delay taking Social Security until age 70 so that they get a bigger monthly check. But to survive until then, you may have to take a larger withdrawal, and it can drastically impact your vulnerability. So that doesn't necessarily always make sense. Forcing your portfolio to work overtime during a down market can really accelerate the reduction of your principal. And, you can essentially gamble your life savings. That's what you're really doing when we start looking at taking it at 70.
Right.
Does it make sense to wait? Sometimes it does, but not always. And a lot of times, it depends on your exact circumstances. And so you might want to find a safer way to help fund those gap years without draining your core investment portfolio.
So, what can someone do to help get the most out of Social Security if they're kind of in this risky window?
Well, I think the biggest thing to me, as I've talked to folks, is having a real income plan. Something on paper that this is what it's going to be, and it helps us determine when's the best time to take Social Security. If you have reliable income from other sources, then you can confidently let your Social Security benefits grow. but not everybody has that benefit. It allows your remaining investments to stay untouched and ride any short-term economic storms that might occur.
So, how can partnering with a professional at Statler Financial help someone feel more confident that they can get through this dangerous window with enough money to last? I mean, that's a little kind of a bad situation when you're not sure.
Well, it is, and to me, it goes back to planning. And I've had several conversations with folks this last week or so, and they want a silver bullet. They want to know, well, what's that one thing that can get me there?
Right.
It's not one thing. It's having a process. It's having a plan put together that's going to get you from here to there. And the problem is that 70% of the folks out there don't have a written plan in place for retirement. And that's the problem. They really need to have that, because that's going to give them the roadmap to that retirement.
Right.
And so that's really one of the things I look at. And Stephanie, the years surrounding your retirement, we're talking about that 5 before, 5 after, are the ultimate test of your financial survival. If you're standing in that danger zone today without a shield, listen, folks, one bad economic shock could force you back to work forever. If you saved at least $500,000 or more, pick up that phone right now. Call Statler Financial and let's start a comprehensive retirement stress test. We'll help you eliminate the sequence of return risk, build your Social Security bridge, and help ensure you cross the finish line with total confidence. The window to help protect yourself is closing fast. Call 863-877-1188 right now. That's 863-877-1188.
A lot of good information, Philip. Thank you. The Statler Financial Radio Show will be right back. Turn your plans of yesterday into yes today. Don't wait another day for a routine checkup of your retirement plans. Call Statler Financial Services, 863-285-3815. That's 863-285-3815.
Surprise parties can be fun. Financial surprises, not so much, especially when you're retired, like finding out you owe more in taxes than you thought you would, or having to go back to work to make ends meet. Maybe you'll be okay, but why not double check just to be sure? Call Philip Statler at Statler Financial Services and schedule a no-cost retirement double check at 863-877-1188. Philip and his team have seen their fair share of surprises over the years and know how to help you avoid them. Call 863-877-1188 to schedule your no-cost retirement double check with Philip Statler at Statler Financial Services. Don't let a financial surprise derail your retirement dreams. Call 863-877-1188 now. That's 863-877-1188. You can also visit StatlerFinancial.com for more info. Advisory services are offered through Second Half Financial Partners, LLC, an SEC-registered investment advisor. Time to retire right. This is the Statler Financial Radio Show.
Welcome back to the Statler Financial Radio Show with Philip Statler. He is the president and founder of Statler Financial Services. We are so glad you're listening today. Some people spend decades diligently saving for retirement, watching their 401ks and IRAs grow. But here's an important question a lot of people fail to ask. How much of that money will I actually get to keep after taxes? Philip, so why are tax strategies crucial yet often overlooked in retirement preparation?
Well, one of the things is that we're focused on retirement, right? We're focused on having fun and making that next step in our life, and we don't think about taxes. They just have focused on building up the nest egg, and a lot of folks out there have done a great job at that. And so, in that process of accumulation, they overlook what the distribution strategies need to be on those portfolios. Now, let's face it, traditional retirement accounts, they can create this thing we call a tax trap. where withdrawals are taxed as ordinary income. I see this quite often. Folks get ready to retire. They haven't quite paid off their house yet, or they have a few, car loans still they want to get paid off. So what do? They say, well, I'm going to take an extra 75 grand out right now to pay off my house or my car, whatever it is. And then all of a sudden they do their tax return and find out, oh my gosh, I owe a fortune in taxes. And so that's where tax planning comes into the process. We don't want anybody to get blindsided by taxes. The other thing we see is higher withdrawals to cover those taxes can then push you into higher tax brackets and just exasperating the whole situation. So with growing national debt, tax rates could increase in the future. Now, we did get some relief, right? We thought they were going to go up at the end of 2025, but we got some relief with the big, beautiful bill. It extended those tax cuts for a while. And so that's great news, but let's don't waste that opportunity, right? So, because we don't know, they're going to have to go up eventually because of the national debt continue to go. So, being tax diversified is important. We need to have some money in Roth where we're tax free, some money in tax deferred. It all works together if you plan properly.
And can you go into maybe a little more detail about tax diversification? Why is that so valuable for retirees?
Well, because think about it, back before Roth IRAs, everybody put in all their money in 401ks or in IRAs. So when they got ready to retire, nothing had any taxes paid on it. So when they got ready to retire, the only place they really had to take money, because that's where they forced all their savings, is they didn't have any place to take money from that wasn't going to be taxable. And that tax on that account then made more of their Social Security taxable. And it was a rolling stone that just kept going and going. Now we've got this thing called a Roth IRA. And even within folks' 401k, a lot of times they'll have a Roth bucket that they can use. And I encourage you, if you're in the 22% bracket or less, I would definitely be putting my money in the Roth part of the 401k. Yeah, granted, it's not going to save you anything in taxes. The taxes can be so much higher down the road. That's the tax deferral, right? Is diversification is how much do I have in Roth? How much do I have in tax deferred? And then how much do I have in non-qualified? That means I'm going to pay the tax as I go. I'm going to pay the tax on the capital gains, the dividends, all those things as they occur. You need all three of those things to put together a good plan.
I'll tell you something. I honestly did not know, Philip, that Social Security benefits, they might be taxable, and also Medicare premiums could increase based on people's income. And a lot of other people are surprised by that as well. How can strategic withdrawals help minimize these additional costs?
Well, I'll be honest. Sometimes it's not avoidable. I've seen it where it's not avoidable, right? I remember the very first time I dealt with this issue called IRMA. That's where your Medicare premiums go up. And a tax client of mine had sold a huge piece of property and had like a $800,000 profit on this piece of property. And, all of a sudden her Social Security check went down by like $600. And she's like, what happened?
It's a big jump.
And yeah. And we had to go dig in and say, look, your income was well over the IRMA amount. So for the next year, guess what? You get to pay higher premiums on your Medicare Part B premium. So it caught her by surprise, as it catches a lot of people by surprise. Thankfully, though, Stephanie, what we are seeing now is that more people are cognizant of the issue. And so they're asking some questions, and more professionals are asking the right questions to make sure that we're doing the right planning for folks. And that's a good thing. And that's, again, part of our core retirement design is to do that tax planning, to have that plan in place. If I'm going to sell something big, what's it going to affect? and just know we may have to deal with that down the road. Would love to sit down with you. Again, it's 30 minutes. Ask your questions. I'll be happy to answer them. 863-877-1188. That's 863-877-1188.
You are listening to the Statler Financial Radio Show. I'm Stephanie Griffin, and I am sitting with Philip Statler of Statler Financial Services, and he is the founder and president of Statler Financial. You can give him a call. Let me mention that number again. You can even text VISIT to this number and get your free consultation, 863-877-1188. That again is 863-877-1188. Philip, what is the first step someone could take if they want to explore creating a more tax-efficient retirement plan?
Well, I think the first thing is you have to know where you are right now, right? So it's like the other day, I met with some folks that have a rather large IRA. And so now what do we do? What's the plan? Because if we wait until RMD time, the RMDs are going to be huge. That's the required minimum distribution. That's the amount the IRS says you have to take out every year. And if they wait, that number is going to be huge, and it's going to make basically 85% of their Social Security taxable. It's going to create a huge bill.
Right.
So we have an opportunity now, while they're still in a relatively low tax bracket, to do what we call take advantage of those tax brackets. Let's max out that 12% tax bracket, or let's max out the 22% tax bracket. If we think they're going to be in a 22% tax bracket down the road, let's max out the 22% tax bracket, because the likelihood 10 years from now is that they'll be, if they have to take RMDs, they're going to be in a higher tax bracket than 22%. So that's going to be the key, is looking at those circumstances and putting together a plan on how we're going to take advantage of our IRA. How are we going to convert to Roth? How are we going to take advantage of the tax brackets? And just, that's what we do. That's what we plan for in our core retirement design.
Now, we've been talking about the retirement tax strategies that people should be doing. How often should people review those strategies? Because the tax code, it seems like it's constantly changing.
Yes, we did. Because early in 2025, we were preaching, the end is coming. The end is coming, right? The tax brackets are going to go up back to what they were prior to the Trump tax law change. And so we were all looking at Roth conversions and what can we do, because people are going to pay a lot more taxes in 2026. And what happened? They came in, they passed a bill that extended those tax cuts and added us some more benefits for the next 4 or 5 years. So you never know, because it could be the exact opposite, right? They can be, hey, look, we got to pay down debt. Let's jack tax rates up.
Right.
So we got 5 more years that we can take advantage of converting these IRAs to Roths, which to me, we need to look at. Everybody needs to take the opportunity to look at that. And we need to look at that on a regular basis. I mean, for my clients that we're doing Roth conversions, it's an annual event that we look at and say, okay, what's happened this year? Did you sell anything big? Can we still make the Roth conversion work? Maybe we can't do 40,000. Maybe we can only do 15,000 this year. But what is that number? What can we do to take advantage of this whole tax bracket? Let's max it out and take advantage of it. So again, when we look at that, that's the thing. You're right. The tax code changes all the time, and we've got to play the game with the rules we have at the time. And right now, we got some extensions that we need to work on and take advantage of these extended lower tax brackets. And again, let me just remind you, our core retirement design looks at 3 key areas of retirement. It looks at the risk in your portfolio that mitigates some of the ups and downs you may see. It's a tax plan where we look at how can we pay the least amount of taxes possible for not just you, your spouse, but also your beneficiaries. Think about this for a minute real quick. if something happens and one of the spouses dies, now our tax brackets automatically go up because now we have to file single.
God, how scary that would be when that surprises you and you're still more in.
It does.
Yeah.
It does. And then the third leg of that core retirement design is designing that income plan that's going to give you the income you need in retirement. Give us a call at 863-877-1188. That's 863-877-1188 to schedule your core retirement analysis.
All right, Philip, sounds good to me. And we would love you to call him once again, 863-877-1188. Sit down and talk to Philip Statler about your retirement and any questions you may have. He'd be happy to answer them for you. When we return, we'll explore specific tax-efficient strategies that can help you keep more of your hard-earned retirement savings, including Roth conversion opportunities and ways to help prepare for your future tax changes. Stay tuned. We've got more of the Statler Financial Radio Show on the way.
Needing a second opinion on your retirement plan or to see if you're paying more than your fair share to Uncle Sam? Schedule your complimentary visit today. Text VISIT to 863-877-1188. That's VISIT to 863-877-1188.
Surprise parties can be fun. Financial surprises, not so much, especially when you're retired, like finding out you owe more in taxes than you thought you would, or having to go back to work to make ends meet. Maybe you'll be okay, but why not double check just to be sure? Call Philip Statler at Statler Financial Services and schedule a no-cost retirement double check at 863-877-1188. Philip and his team have seen their fair share of surprises over the years and know how to help you avoid them. Call 863-877-1188 to schedule your no-cost retirement double check with Philip Statler at Statler Financial Services. Don't let a financial surprise derail your retirement dreams. Call 863-877-1188 now. That's 863-877-1188. You can also visit StatlerFinancial.com for more info. Advisory services are offered through Second Half Financial Partners, LLC, an SEC registered investment advisor.
Welcome back to the Statler Financial Radio Show with founder and president of Statler Financial Services, Philip Statler. Thank you so much for listening to us today. The prospect of retirement brings excitement and concern for many Americans. Building your nest egg is very important, but those taxes on withdrawals can really impact how long your money lasts. So what specific actions can listeners take today to create a more tax-efficient retirement strategy, Philip?
Well, I think that the strategies are out there. It's just making them work for you. And here's probably the key. You have to be willing to pay some tax up front to save more taxes in the back. And that can be hard for people to grasp, right?
Right.
So the first step is evaluating your current mix of accounts across the different tax treatments that are out there. What do we have in Roth? What do we have in traditional? What do we have that's neither one, non-qualified, not retirement accounts? We need all three to put things together so that you have the best opportunity. So once we look at that, then we want to consider strategic Roth conversions during years when you might be in a lower tax bracket. And that's singling out different years. It's not a one and done deal. For some reason, people think that. I have some clients, we do $10,000 a year, convert from traditional to Roth. Other clients, we do $25,000 or $40,000 a year. So everybody's different, and that's why you have to go through the planning process. You need to plan for required minimum distributions before they become mandatory. I did a review of the client this year, and she turns 73 next year, meaning she has to start taking money out for her required minimum distributions. And she had done a little homework. She said, Philip, since the tax rates are low, maybe we should do some Roth conversions this year before I have to start taking my required minimum distribution next year.
Oh, wow.
I said, absolutely. Let's look at that.
Yeah.
We scheduled another appointment. I'm putting together the numbers now. to see, how much can she put into a Roth and still stay in that 12 to 22% tax bracket, because, well, she lives in one of those high states too. So she's going to pay some high state income tax. So we really want to look to see how that's going to affect her. But again, it's the planning process. It's being cognizant of the fact that everything's sitting in her traditional IRA, and she knows the amount of money she's going to have to pull out and pay taxes on is huge. Now, the other thing people don't want to talk about, or they do, but they don't understand how to do it yet, or a lot of advisors don't deal with it. There's a lot of strategies for folks out there that are charitably minded, especially once you pass that 70.5 marker. Things called QCDs, Qualified Charitable Distributions, that you can use your IRA to fund your charitable endeavors. It's a huge thing that can save you big amounts in taxes. Some people just don't want to deal with it, though. I don't get it, but everybody's different, right?
That's why you're here. You can help him out, right? Help him out. Definitely give Philip a call. 863-877-1188 is the number. And Philip, it seems like tax laws are always changing. We mentioned that earlier. How can retirees create a tax strategy that helps provide flexibility as their situation and tax laws evolve over time?
Well, Stephanie, that's good. That's a good question, because here's the deal, is that a lot of people don't, right? They do something and don't think about it, and it's done, and it can't be undone. And so what I encourage my clients to do is, look, before you do something that may cause some tax issues, call us. Let's call us and let's make sure that what you're doing makes the most sense. And make sure there's not another way to skin that cat. For instance, I'll have clients that will call me and say, Philip, it's time for me to buy my new car, right? I need 50 grand, because cars ain't cheap this time of year,
that's
right?
For sure.
So I need to buy a new car. Take the money out of my IRA and send it to me. I said, whoa. Let's look and see at where all your pots of money are, and let's make sure that that's the right choice. We have an IRA over here, we have a Roth IRA there, and we have a non-qualified account. Well, if you take 50 grand out of the traditional IRA, then we know your tax bill is going to be significant. What if we kind of took some from everywhere? We take $15,000 from the traditional. We take $15,000 from the Roth. We take $10,000 from the non-qualified. Now we still got the $50,000, but you've saved a lot of money in taxes by doing it that way.
Very smart.
So that's the key. Is I tell people, look, don't just say, send me $50,000. Tell me what you're going to do, what you're trying to accomplish, and let's plan out how we're going to do it. The other way that comes up, Stephanie, is that people want to pay off something. They just retired. They want to pay off, the car still. Mm-hmm. Well, let's don't do it all in 1 year. Let's do it in 2 years. Let's take it this year and let's pay some off this year. And let's get into the next tax year and take some more money out and pay the rest of it off.
Great idea.
Now we've straddled 2 tax years. So it's just making sure that we plan the process. And so many people are focused on the end result, and they don't care how you get there. Well, how you get there can be half the battle, right?
That's exactly right.
That's the big tax consequences there. And so I think that's where we really help a lot of folks, is making sure that we do the best we can to be tax efficient. Now, truth, you can't always be tax efficient, right? Sometimes you don't have a choice. But man, whenever you can be tax efficient, let's don't lose that opportunity. Let's make sure that you're doing everything you can to save yourself the most you can in taxes.
The first step is to give Philip a call for sure. We want you to reach your financial goals. Give Philip Statler a call right now at 863-877-1188. That number again is 863-877-1188. You're listening to the Statler Financial Radio Show. And Philip, how do you help people develop tax-efficient withdrawal strategies? So everybody is different. How do you tailor it to a specific situation?
Well, that's where we look at our income planning, right? Is putting together the income plan. That's the deal right there is where is money going to come from? And what happens occasionally will be we've got a plan in place and something happens, right? There's always something, especially in Florida. A hurricane comes through. Well, Philip, I need an extra $25,000 to fix something. Okay. Well, that wasn't in our plan. Let's figure out the best way to handle that. And so we look at a couple of different scenarios and come up with the best alternatives we can. And that's the key. So often I talk with people and they say, I asked my financial advisor, I need some money out of my IRA. He didn't ask a question. He didn't make any suggestion. He just sent me the money. And now I owe this huge amount in taxes. And so I think that's the key, is making sure that people are really looking at and being conscious of the tax implications. They just say, gross it up. Gross it up. I need $20,000. Gross it up to $25,000. That'll take care of the taxes. Well, maybe there's another way. Maybe there's a better way. It's just understanding the process, understanding the tax consequences and how the taxes work to put together maybe a better plan that accomplishes the same thing in the process. And so I think that's the key. And again, Stephanie, when I work with somebody, we work through our core retirement design. And remember, that's 3 specific categories. We look at how much risk do you have in your portfolio, and does it really match up with the amount of risk you want in your portfolio? Somebody will say, well, I'm moderate. Well, what does moderate mean? Can you handle a 20% decline in your portfolio and be okay? So those are the things you have to look at.
Yeah, everybody's different.
Everybody's different. Yes. Step 2, look at the tax consequences of where you are. How can we minimize that tax, not just for you, but for your beneficiaries, right? Because they're going to be in a much higher tax bracket than you are usually. And so we need to look at those rules and make sure that we're doing what's best for our entire family. And then lastly is obviously the income planning. We've got to have an income plan. We've got to have a map to follow, a plan to get us to where we need to be. And that's what the income plan does. It gives us a track to run off of. Folks, look, it's that simple. Give us a call. We'd love to help you work through it. 863-877-1188. That's 863-877-1188.
And we aren't finished yet. More of the Statler Financial Radio Show is coming up.
Needing a second opinion on your retirement plan or to see if you're paying more than your fair share to Uncle Sam? Schedule your complimentary visit today. Text VISIT to 863-877-1188. That's VISIT to 863-877-1188.
Who likes uncertainty? Wall Street certainly doesn't. With fears of a potential recession and partisan politics, there's a lot of uncertainty right now. What will your future look like? Will your taxes go up? Will your savings go down? Here in the Sebring area, financial advisor Philip Statler and the team at Statler Financial Services have seen uncertainty come and go. Philip can help you create a plan designed to preserve your finances in uncertain times. And it's not a matter of if those uncertain times will show up, but when. Call 863-877-1188 now to meet with Philip Statler and the team at Statler Financial Services. Call 863-877-1188 and schedule your visit today. 863-877-1188. 1188. Advisory services offered through Second Half Financial Partners, LLC, a SEC registered investment advisor. Investing involves risk, including the potential loss of principal.
Do you have a retirement plan but would like a second opinion? Call Philip Statler today, 863-285-3815. Statler Financial Services, 863-285-3815.
Welcome back to the Statler Financial Radio Show. I'm Stephanie Griffin, and recent data shows confidence in retirement has plummeted, with 39% of American workers reporting they do not feel confident in their retirement. Philip Statler from Statler Financial Services, he is here to help us understand how this could have happened and hopefully how we can help close the gap. So if you want to take steps toward being confident in your retirement, reach out to the team at Statler Financial today. All you have to do is call Philip and the team at 863-877-1188. That's 863-877-1188. Or you can go online to statlerfinancial.com. So, Philip, what is driving this sudden uncertainty in retirement, do you think?
Well, I think there's a couple things, Stephanie, that really have made that an issue, right? I think the rising daily living cost. I mean, it's not cheap anymore. Inflation that we've had over the last 3 or 4 years now, maybe even 5 years, the inflation that we've seen since COVID has really hit retirees hard. And so I think that's given a lot of uncertainty to those folks that are preparing to retire now. If it's been that bad the last 4 or 5 years, what's it going to be the next 4 or 5 years, right? So they look at that. I think another thing is you can't depend on the same economic conditions that our parents did. Sure. It's a totally different time span. My dad's been retired now for, probably 20 years.
Wow.
Maybe 25 years. Probably 25 years now. He's going to be 89 this year. So probably 25 years or more he's been retired. And economic conditions have changed from when he first retired to where they are today. And then I think it's about having a real plan. And a real plan is not something you put together and then forget it and put it down. It's something that you pick up and look at least once a year and gauge, how are you doing? Am I on track? Am I still doing okay? Do I need to make changes? And maybe that's really what's important as you look at planning for retirement.
So Medicare, let's talk about that a little bit. That's another area where the numbers show a lack of confidence. What is your reaction to that?
Well, it's the largest hidden expense. Mm-hmm. Think about it. Medicare goes up every year. Everybody's Medicare gap, Medicare gap policy goes up every year. So you got more and more people looking at Medicare Advantage plans, which, my opinion only, is not necessarily the best place to go.
Right.
But I understand for economic reasons, sometimes that's what people have to do. And so I understand that that's an issue, right? If we can get rid of some of this fraud, I was listening to somebody the other day. It says, look, if we could reduce this fraud, which we know is billions and billions of dollars,
yes, we
could easily get, solidify another 10 years out of Medicare. And that would be huge. So I think the other thing is when plans unexpectedly reduce coverage, retirees are forced to pay higher out-of-pocket expenses than they anticipated, which that then impacts their savings and their retirement income. I just think about an unexpected medical emergency can derail your retirement. I talk to clients sometimes and think about, well, maybe we just won't get Medicare insurance. We'll just do with Medicare. And I just want to pull my hair out, right? No. It just takes one little thing, and the 20% that you have to pay after Medicare could be astronomical. So I think building that healthcare inflation into your financial plan helps a lot, right? That we know that it's going to go up, and we just got to plan for it.
You are listening to the Statler Financial Radio Show with Philip Statler. I'm Stephanie Griffin, and we do need to touch on Social Security, Philip. If Congress doesn't act, there could be an automatic benefit cut up to 24% by 2032. That's pretty big percentage. How can people plan for their future with that kind of threat hanging over them?
Well, I think Social Security is important, no doubt about it. But you need other income too, right?
Sure.
I mean, remember, Social Security was never meant to be 100% of our income. It was meant to be a leg on a three-legged stool. And so, it's meant to be 20 to 30% of your retirement income. And so I think there's some things there that we need to talk about, but you need to stress test your income plan. What would your income look like if Social Security were reduced? You got to kind of run those what if scenarios. And then, you have to create some independent, reliable income streams. That's on you. You've got to be proactive and really look at how can I create some income? If you're lying awake worrying about inflation, Medicare costs, or Social Security cuts, then it's time to stop worrying and start planning. If you have at least $500,000 saved up for retirement, call my team at Statler Financial right now. We'll review your strategy, stress test your income against those looming Social Security cuts that could happen, and help put you on put you in the driver's seat of all those things. Call us right now at 863-877-1188. That number again, 863-877-1188.
So we are talking with Philip Statler. He is the founder and president of the Statler Financial Services. We are talking today about declining confidence Americans have in their retirement. Philip, the data shows that roughly a third of retirees now expect to work at least somewhat in retirement. Is that the only solution, you think? I mean, nobody wants to work after they retire, really. Unless to keep busy.
You think so, unless to stay busy. That's right. You don't want to have to work.
Right.
But yeah, a lot of people, they want to because they like the interaction, So here's the deal, Stephanie. Work in retirement, it should be a personal choice. It shouldn't be, again, because you have to. It should be, I want the interaction with people. I like doing whatever it is I'm doing. That should be the reason. So it's all about income, though, without a job. And it has to come from somewhere else. And that's the key, is putting together that income plan. Maximizing savings and optimizing your tax strategy is huge. Folks forget that the tax man stands ready to take his part every time you take money out of your retirement accounts. And so the goal of our planning process is to make employment optional. That's the key. If you want to work, fine, but don't do it because you have to. Do it because you just enjoy doing whatever it is you're doing, Stephanie.
Right, exactly. Or go do a charity work or something. But yeah, you don't want to have to, for sure. So what could listeners do today to help make sure they can retire with confidence?
Well, I think if you're not retired yet, maximize those contributions to your 401ks or your IRAs or your simple plans, whatever it is that you have available to contribute to. Do the max it out every year. Shift your strategy from hoping for market growth to actively help protect your principal. And there's a difference, and there needs to be a balance between those two, right? We need growth, but you also have to protect what you already have. So there's this balance between the two that you need to come to grips with and look at. It is a different philosophy when you hit retirement than when you're working. And too many people don't make that change heading into retirement. Maintain your physical health. That's a huge deal. I mean, if you don't have medical expenses, we talked about earlier, that goes a long way in preserving your retirement savings. So protecting your body helps protect your wallet. And then partner with an advisor. An advisor is here to guide you through the process and help put that plan together and make sure you stay on track for that retirement you always dreamed of. And I know that sometimes it's not always the way it works, but in our firm, we're here as a retirement advisor. And a lot of times, Stephanie, that's more than just the money management or the investment selection. It's encompasses a lot more than just your investments. It's your retirement planning. And it's more than just the financial part of it, Stephanie.
Right. And you're also a psychologist and a marriage counselor. And so how can the team at Statler Financial, how can you guys help people?
Stephanie, at the end of the day, a lack of confidence means that there's been a lack of planning. And planning is exactly what we do here at Statler Financial. You deserve to feel confident about your retirement. You've earned it. Don't let the fear of Medicare changes or Social Security cuts rob you of retirement you've worked decades to build. If you have $500,000 or more saved, call my team today and schedule a visit so we can walk you through ways to start helping protect that wealth, ways to help you find, to generate lasting income, and help you create a strategy to last the rest of your life. It comes down to just that, having a written retirement income plan in place and making sure that we look at it on at least an annual basis, if not more often, to make sure that you are on track and there's no adjustments that need to be made. To start the process, to take charge of your retirement, call right now, 863-877-1188. That's 863-877-1188.
And you can also go to statlerfinancial.com. Now we have about a minute left, Philip. Tell us what people can expect when they get that appointment by calling that number and coming into your office.
Absolutely, Stephanie. So what we do is it's a process, right? We want to know what your goals are, what your dreams are, what you want to do in retirement. And then we'll look at where you are right now and start the process of, one, analyzing the risks that you currently have in your portfolio. Have you made that adjustment that I talked about earlier from all risk like before you retired, or have you adjusted so some of it's safe, some of it's at risk? That's the first step we're going to take. Second, we're going to look at taxes. How can we minimize your taxes, not this year, next year, but over your entire retirement lifetime? And then lastly, we're going to put together that retirement income plan to make sure that you know how much income you have to draw from on a monthly basis. It's that simple.
A lot of great insight. Thank you so much, Philip, for today's show. And we will be back next week for more of the Statler Financial Radio Show. Have a great one.
Needing a second opinion on your retirement plan or to see if you're paying more than your fair share to Uncle Sam? Schedule your complimentary visit today. Text VISIT to 863-877-1188. That's VISIT to 863-877-1188.
Advisory services offered through Second Half Financial Partners, LLC, a SEC-registered investment advisor. The opinions voiced and information provided in this material are for general informational purposes only and are not intended to provide specific advice or recommendations for any individual. To determine what investments are appropriate for you, please consult with a financial advisor. Second Half Financial Partners, LLC does not provide tax or legal advice. Please consult your tax or legal advisor regarding your particular situation. This radio show is a paid placement.